Okay, we're live. You in the shot?
Okay.
Sit not be close to me. I don't know if I want you sitting that close to me. Nobody here yet. Oh, so there's two. That may be us.
No, I'm not on yet.
What, you're not on?
No.
Okay, well, we'll give people a few minutes here. See who joins us today. These are the new straws?
Yeah.
How refreshing.
Peachy.
Peachy keen. Okay. Hello, whoever's out there. Let us know who you are. Can't you find it?
No, I'm just trying to figure out where my bearings are. Okay.
Lost your bearings?
Mm-hmm.
Like losing your...
Is that cheese?
That cheese?
That cheese?
Yes, it is. It's the horseradish cheese.
Horseradish cheese.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Julie's here. Hi, Julie. We'll just give everybody a
That
little...
was a good look on your face.
What?
When you had to log on. Like it's like deer in headlights.
Microphone's not facing the right way. Okay. So we got Julie. And who else is out there? It's funny. It says on the camera we've got 5 people. On here it doesn't show me any.
Just 5 here on mine.
It does? Well, why doesn't mine? Mine says 0. That's weird. Just reset it here. And now it says there's 4 on there. So, I don't know.
No, it says 4 up there. Mine still says 5.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, Pracey's here.
Yeah.
Hi, Pracey.
Julie's here too.
You already said hi to Julie. Well, if you want to know what we're drinking, we bought some peaches the other day. It's peach season.
In Ontario, it's peach season, so.
And so Walter made, what's in it?
It's peaches.
Shit.
Peaches, gin.
Gin?
Gin. Peach snaps, and a little bit of Cointreau. No, Cointreau. Not Cointreau. What's the other orange one?
Triple sec?
No, I thought I had triple sec. But
Grand Marnier?
Grand Marnier, yeah. I don't know why I keep calling Grand Marnier Cointreau. I don't know.
I don't know. I managed to get it on my shirt.
Oh, that's good.
Good shot. Oh, well.
Where was your napkin?
Over here. You're one to talk. So we've got that. We've got some little hors d'oeuvres made with cheese that has horseradish in it. I love horseradish. And it does taste horseradish.
I always call it horseradish.
Horseradish, yeah. We used to call it horseradish when I was a kid, too. So where is everybody? Maybe the weather's too nice. It's nice here today. Not too hot.
Nice and sunny. Actually, our nights have been cooling down.
Well,
a little too soon.
Well, it's August. Yeah, say goodbye to summer soon. Okay, so, we're just going to jump right in here with our update.
What brand is that cheese? It's a local brand. It's Empire.
It's called Empire, yeah, is the name of it. You wouldn't be able to get it where you are. It's a local place. And they make all kinds of different flavors. Like this is horseradish. You can get jalapeno. I saw it too yesterday, salsa in it. I've never tried that. Don't know what it's like.
I don't really notice the horseradish in it.
No, I can taste it. Okay, so what's up with my mother? Nothing. She did get out last week. I guess Wednesday or Thursday they had a special luncheon off-site, so to speak, away from the residence. And it was in a place that's north of us called Port Perry. It's a little, kind of touristy little town. Quaint little shops, things like that in it. And she went to some pub. It was arranged by the residents, by the home. And they do this. They usually have one of those a month, somewhere different. And she's been going to those, which I think is really good. She had her standard food. Asked her, well, so what you have in the pub? Oh, she had chicken fingers. She loves chicken fingers. So it sounded like she had a good time, and that's good. I'm glad she did. What's Bracy say? We have
Cabot
brand horseradish cheese that doesn't melt. Oh.
No, this stuff melts.
This stuff melts, yeah, because I put it in the microwave for 30
I think it's
seconds.
just pretty much like standard cheddar type cheese with a horseradish flavor to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the horseradish added to the cheese is something unique to this particular place where we got it from. I've seen it in other brands as well. I think you can mix anything you want with cheese, actually. So anyways, it's pretty good. So nothing else to tell you about my mom. Oh, Andy's here. Hi, Andy. She's doing okay. Next week, ooh, I didn't think about it. That changes Stephen and Walter Live.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot all about it.
Is
Okay.
it next week? Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot all about it. Better tell ya. There probably won't be a Stephen and Walter Live next week. Unless we do it on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know yet. That depends. Because it's my mother's birthday. And technically her birthday's this coming Thursday, but we're going to have sort of a family thing at the residence for her. Just my sister and my brother-in-law and my niece and just Walter and I. That small group, but I've got the games room in the residence reserved, and we're having a little birthday celebration. It'll be her 79th. My mother's not that old, really. She's just 79 going on 95. But anyway, so we're going to get Chinese food, and I get some balloons and things like that, and we'll just have a little family celebration with that. But that's going to happen right around the same time as we usually schedule Stephen and Walter Live. So...
yeah, that we do it earlier or something.
Well, yeah, but if we do it earlier, we'd have to do it at, like, noon, our time, or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So, we may have a Stephen and Walter Live. It may be on the Saturday. It may... we can't do it later. I mean, it's not that we're going to be out that late. It's just that changes the time for everybody else in different parts.
Yeah, well, it might be okay for people that are in Australia, but...
that's true, but...
people in Europe won't be able to log on, so...
no.
But I might do, if we were a little bit earlier, then people in Europe would be able to log in.
Yes, that's true. We could do it a little bit earlier. Well, maybe we will. Anyway, stay tuned. I'll make an announcement about it one way or the other at the latter part of the week. Okay, so that's my mother. Oh, you're going to show them your quilt? Top?
I thought I did that last week.
You didn't have the borders on
I
it, did
thought I
you?
had the borders on, yeah.
Oh, when did you do the borders?
A week ago or so.
I thought you just... oh, okay, never mind. So you saw it, never mind. Now, I've been working on a couple of Christmas projects. Yes, it's August, but you got to get started on those kind of things now when it comes to quilting. And I made a couple of table runners. I'm not going to show those here today. I'm going to show those tomorrow on the vlog, along with a couple of other little thingies I've been working on. And yeah, that's about all the news that's there. Now, as a follow-up to last week's discussion about Medicare and, universal health care and things like that, Anita, who has not been on for a while, she's enjoying the summer. She sent me an email, though. She'd watched the rebroadcast. That's Cherry... she go by Cherry something. Cherry A19. That's Anita. And Anita just wrote this little comment about our topic. She says, I enjoyed your talk on healthcare in Canada. It's been a big topic in the Democratic debates. I can give you some insight into diabetic meds. I take, what's that, Javanna?
Januvia in pill
pill form. It has really helped me. I was started on it 1 year ago in April. My A1C number was 8.1. I guess that is
Yeah,
a
that's must be your sugar number.
Yeah. They want you to have it at 7 or under, as close
Yeah.
to 6 as you can get. I'm now at 6.2. The retail cost of the med when I started was $435. It's now $535. I pay $35 a month. So obviously she's got an insurance plan. But it started at 435 and it's gone to 435. It's gone up $100 in the process of about, well, I don't know,
A year, I guess.
a year maybe. People on insulin or the once a week injections, the retail cost of those is about $900 to $1,000 a month. I know people who just can't afford that, even if they have insurance, but pay $100 a month for their prescription with other meds. They also take it. It is unaffordable. So yeah, I don't know how those people are staying alive. Basically, as we said last week, drugs are way overpriced, I think, and you need to have universal health care. And right now, our government is now talking about, of course, it's an election year coming up in the fall, the federal level. And so the federal government, the liberals who are in power right now, are talking about having some sort of pharmacare kind of program. Because as we said last week, unless you have an insurance policy or you're over 65, your drugs are not really covered in most cases. Some are, but others are not. So you need additional insurance, which is weird because we have what we supposedly call universal health care in Canada, but it doesn't cover drugs. So how universal is that? Whereas, who was it last week over in the UK? Was that Debs or whatever, Shady Lady?
I read that
She said they're
Canada
covered.
is about the only country that has what they claim universal health care but doesn't have a drug plan.
Which is kind of incongruous.
Though our drugs are cheaper than I think than what they sell in the United States because we allow generic drugs.
Well, wasn't there something this week on the news too that the government didn't want to do or something because the Americans were coming across the border trying to get our drugs or something?
Yeah, well, I think President Trump or whoever in the U.S. was trying to say that. Like, I guess now it's sort of illegal for them to go to Canada to get their drugs.
Oh,
And
well, yeah.
they wanted to make it so that it's legal for them to do that. Well, you've got 230,000, you got 300 million people in the United States, and you have 33 million people in Canada. The Canadian government's worried that our drug supply will become
Yeah. Can't have our drugs.
compromised.
No, sorry, can't have our drugs. We need our drugs. Oh, Rosie's here. Hi, Rosie. So, anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting and neat information. So, and that was all about
And I did look up.
what?
President last time said that something about people would pay up to $900
yeah.
In Ontario for their health plan, and I did look that up. You would think I would know living in Ontario, but
We don't.
we don't. The healthcare comes out as part of our taxes. We don't really see the figure that much, except when I did the income taxes for us, right? And it starts at being absolutely free if you earn less than a certain amount of money. Right? Free as in like there's no contribution. If you're earning a certain amount of money, up to it, if you make over $200,000 a year, then the maximum that you would pay for the health care for an Ontario would be $900 out of your taxes.
If you make over 200,000.
Yeah, I think our last year, what my portion that I paid was about $600.
Yeah, because we don't make $200,000 a year. Not even close. Oh, Andy says my sister Jean is on the line. Hi, Jean.
But we don't really notice it because it's part of the amount of money that gets taken off for our income tax. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's in our general taxes that we don't exactly know where that money is going or what that money is covering. I mean, we could find out if we wanted to. It's not that it's hidden from us. It's just that means you have to go onto the government website kind of a thing and go through pages and pages and pages of legalese and whatever not. So it's not like easy to look it up, but you know, because it's government kind of thing.
Plus, all our hospitals are government run. Mm-hmm. We don't really have any.
We don't really have any private, although we do have private clinics that do certain surgical or practice procedures that you have to pay for. For example, if you have a hernia operation. You can have the hernia operation done in a regular hospital. That won't cost you anything. Or you can go to a specialized clinic where it will cost you some money. My brother did that many, many, many years ago. He went to a clinic in Toronto called Shouldice. They were famous for their hernia operations because they had some method where they basically guaranteed you'd never have a problem again in your life. And as far as I know, that was like 30 years ago, maybe more than that, more like 40 years ago. And I don't think my brother's had any problem since. I mean, he was just a kid, basically, when he had it done. Well, in his very, very early 20s at the time. But, and when I had my last colonoscopy, I went to a private clinic. It cost me $50 or $75. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
For that. And you just, when you had yours
Yeah,
done
I had
last
it
year.
done too. I could have waited. I got down to the hospital, but I would have had to wait longer. And it's they sort of schedule you for the whole day if you go to the hospital. Whereas at a clinic, they can just sort of say, okay, this is the time that you're going to be here, right? So
Yeah, it's a little bit more efficient, and you know, for the difference in the money, that's not a lot of money. I mean, $75 or what did it cost you last time? Wasn't it 80 something? You said 85
yeah, I
or
think
80
it was 80.
with it. Well, you know, that's nothing really in this day and age. So it's not like you're talking thousands upon thousands of
But
dollars.
I could have gone to the hospital and got it done, and it was nothing. So
Yeah, true. But it's just the convenience of going to the private clinic over the general hospital because
We don't have a lot of that stuff though. Here,
No.
we don't really have a lot of the other stuff that you can't just have options for everything. So
no,
like you don't have an option to go anywhere for an MRI at the hospital. But hospitals, there was a point in time that there was a time lag for getting an MRI, but now you can get them done fairly quickly.
yeah, now it's a little bit quicker. Actually, some people I think were at one point in time, a lot of them who could afford it were going into the States to have things like that done. I don't know if that's still going on or not, but I mean, your health plan is not going to cover going into another country.
Well, I think what happened was the MRI machines were sitting idle, like they were only being used like 8 hours a day, and they were sitting idle for the rest of the time. So somebody that was a little bit on the ball said, "Well, why don't we have 24-hour MRIs so that
Yeah.
we can get everybody in?" So that's what happened. So
Yeah. So, anyways, that was last week's sort of a recap of last week's discussion. And I just brought it up again because Anita had written that little piece with further information about what she goes through in the States. So, today we're going to take it over to a conversation that's been generated by the tragedy that's happened in the States, of course. And that's with the two mass shootings that occurred last week. In Dayton, was it Dayton? Dayton, Ohio, and in San Antonio, Texas. Horrible tragedies there. But unfortunately, that seems to be, I don't want to use the word the norm because it shouldn't be the norm, but we hear about this all the time. Now, of course, we're hearing about it from the United States more so than from our country. But the whole point is we have our fair share of violent crime in our country too. And lately this summer, this year in Toronto, it seems, I don't know if it's any worse than it's ever been or if it's just because the news is covering it more fully. You don't know for sure, but it's come to the point now where we don't even want to go in to the city just because you never know. I mean, it was a year ago that there was the shooting, crazy guy, on the Danforth. The Danforth in Toronto is a very popular area of Toronto. It's what they call Greek town. A lot of Greek restaurants. It's very, very popular area for entertainment and for food. And people were on a summer evening, just like end of July, sitting out in the open air cafes, and this nut job with a gun came by and he wounded, I forget how many people he wounded, but he killed two young women. One of the girls, she was just a girl. She was 12 or something, or 10, something like that. this is something we don't hear about in our country often. So when we do have something like this happen, it shocks us as Canadians. But the point is, we're hearing more and more about this, not just around the world, not just in the United States. We're hearing about it in our own country as well. And it made me start thinking about, have we become more violent? I'm going to kill somebody right now. I want to see violence. I'll wait till he finishes pouring the drink.
Well, why not make any noise now?
Yeah, you'll probably will. Tracy says she completely blames the Conservatives. Well, this is the thing. Who is at fault? So I thought maybe today we would talk about some of the things that Walter and I have been discussing about this, whether or not have we become a civilization, a society that's leaning much more towards more violence than there's ever been in history before? Or is that a perception that we're getting falsely from the media? Now, I'm not saying that it's false when they report a mass shooting. No, that's not false. But we're hearing more and more about it. And is this influencing people to become more violent? So I thought we'd kind of break this down into several categories and talk about what can we do about this kind of stuff, because they're always talking about gun control laws and things like that. That's going to solve all the problems. I'm certainly for gun control. In fact, I'm more for let's not make firearms, period. But I know that that's just pie in the sky because they're not going to stop making guns. I mean, economically speaking, that's never going to happen. And in the States, you have the lobby group, the NRA. They're not going to support that kind of thing. And even in our own country, you couldn't ban them completely because we have indigenous people who have the right to have a gun because some of them, especially the ones in the real frozen north area, still hunt. And of course, that brings up whole thing about people who hunt. So gun controls aren't necessary. They're one tool that could be used.
If you get a society that has so many guns in it to begin with, like the United States, how can you bring in gun control? You have to somehow. Do you take everybody's guns, or how's that all work? So, I think it's a big issue, big problem that you can't just solve overnight.
Yeah. Well, Tracy says the issue is incels, mental health, immature boys growing into immature men, the conspiracy industry. She says, I dated hunters. I support people who hunt. I don't want handguns, etc. though. Okay, I don't support people who hunt. I'm sorry. In this day and age, in North America, even in the frozen north of Canada, okay, there is no need to go out and hunt your food. That's what grocery stores are for. That's what they do. Now, some people will argue, yes, but it's one way to keep the animal population down. No, it's not. There are other means for doing that. There's sterilization of animals, capturing them, humanely capturing them, fixing them up, and send them back out in the wild. If you need to thin the herd, so to think, then leave that to a federal agency. Like in our country, it would probably be not Parks and Recreation. What do they call it? The conservation authorities, whatever that we have, that could do that kind of thing. Or have a certain time period in the year. Well, I think we already do have this.
Yeah, actually, is it Rosie said the law is too soft for criminals.
Yeah, but let's not jump ahead. Because we're going to come to that, but we'll come back to Rosie's comment in a second. But I was just addressing this whole thing about hunting. In my way of thinking, to me, hunting is barbaric. Now, my father, my grandfather, and my brother were all duck hunters. They hunted. I went duck hunting with my father when I was a kid. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. It had no appeal to me whatsoever. I do not like guns, period, in any shape, size, or form. And to me, you can't justify, in my mind, no matter what anybody says, you cannot justify, in my mind, why in this day and age, today, in North America, Do we need to shoot our food? We don't need to shoot our food at all. So anyways, and nothing's going to change me on that, so don't even try. Okay, so Pracy, don't even try. Can't say, though, I've ever dated a hunter. Pracy says, the hunters I dated were the last two men from a 13-kid Catholic family that hunted to supplement food supply. No, sorry, don't care. No, they didn't need to supplement their food supply. No, they didn't. They had 13 kids. Eat one of the damn kids. For God's sakes, you don't need 13. And they're Catholic anyway, so there you go. No, I'm sorry. Doesn't justify it for me. Won't buy into it. No, ever. And you want to know something? The only concession I'll give you on that one is maybe that was 50, 60, 70 years ago. Okay? In 2019, nobody, not with the systems we have set up in our governments for welfares, not the way food is produced, readily available, nobody needs to shoot their food. Okay? Nobody. Not anymore. No, sorry. Okay, so let's get on to what Rosie was saying. The law is soft for criminals. Yeah, our laws are very soft in this country, in Canada. I can tell you that. I'm not sure what they're like in other countries. All we know about other countries is what we hear basically on the news. But our laws in our country are way too lenient. I'll give you an example. We have something called the Young Offenders Act. The Young Offenders Act used to be called the Juvenile something or other. Protects anybody under the age of, I think, 17, isn't it? Or is it 14? 14. If they commit a crime, they don't do the time. Because it is considered that they're a kid and they don't know what they're doing. Bull crap. Okay? I was a teacher. I taught 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds. They are very much aware of what they're doing. They are not innocent. If they're going to pull a crime, they know that it's a crime. And so I don't think they should be tried with a different set of laws. And this applies to if they kill somebody, if they murder somebody, that kind of thing. I don't think they should be tried in a different set of laws because they're 14 or under. They know what they're doing. They're not stupid. Well, they're stupid to commit a crime like that, yes, but that's not an excuse. I don't think that's an excuse.
Younger Offenders Act applies to youth that are at least 12 but under 18.
Oh, they changed the age. Oh, well, come on. Even worse. A 17 or an 18-year-old kid, they know what they're doing. They're not stupid. Like, you probably heard about the two kids, basically, that were on the run from killing two innocent people in BC, and they got their way all the way over to the frozen north of Manitoba, and I guess they found their bodies this week. They haven't even said how they think they died, but the suggestion is that they took a boat to try and get into Ontario by way of the Hudson Bay, and on some crazy river that really nobody except a very experienced woods person should go down. And I think they're suggesting is that the boat overturned in the rapids. And
says here, the law says that children under 12 cannot be arrested or taken to court.
Yeah.
If police catch children younger than 12 doing something wrong, they can take them home and tell their parents.
Okay, so there's another problem.
Then there's the special law for 12 to 17, which is the Young Offenders Act.
You know, kids today are very sophisticated. They're not innocents. They're not sweet and innocent. And you give a kid a gun or a knife or whatever, and they kill somebody, they can't go get, oh, oops, I'm sorry. But why do they do this? Why would it take, like these two young men that did this murder for no apparent reason? They didn't know the people they killed. They met them along the side of a road. I think they asked them for directions and then they killed them and then burned up their car. Like, wow. And luckily, well, not luckily, but they're both dead now. So they're never going to be brought to justice. Some may think that that's justice enough, that they're dead. But it also begs the question is, and the cops still aren't telling us the whole thing. They found their bodies 8 kilometers away from the river. So that would mean they didn't really drown in the river, doesn't it? So, and they haven't said how they think that they died. So did the cops, they've been looking for them, did the RCMP find them and blow them away? Because in our law system, those 2 kids might have gotten off from what they did. Who knows? And Tracy says, also disregard for others and affluence is another issue. Yeah, that's true. If you have enough money in any country, you can buy the justice system. I mean, it's almost an oxymoron to call this system justice system because there is no justice in it. We've talked a little bit about gun control. That's part of the law. Our laws are too weak in this country for gun control, and yet ours are probably more strict than what they have in the States. Australia's are very, very strict.
However, one thing Australia has going for it is that they're a continent that's surrounded by water, so it's a little bit more easy to control.
And they do control. I have to admit, one thing I admire about the Australians is that they are very protective of their country, and you just don't get into their country willy-nilly. They won't even let you bring food in of any kind. And they have dogs sniffing you at the airport. In fact, you actually physically get off the plane, and once you're going down to pick up your suitcases and everything and go through customs, you have to go down in a straight line, and they bring the dogs through, sniffing what you've got. And they have big garbage cans sitting off to the side of where you're walking down, and big signs on them. Throw it out. Everything. They don't want you bringing a chiclet. Okay? And the same with their gun control laws. And that whole thing where that guy went into and shot up those Muslims in Christchurch in New Zealand. I guess New Zealand, their laws weren't quite as strict. I guess they are now. They went right into action. Here, we hem and haw about it. We make excuses. And so does the United States. Now we know all about the NRA, the Second Amendment in the United States. We don't have an NRA. We don't have a Second Amendment that says we have the right to bear arms.
In fact, I don't think we have the right to bear arms.
No, I don't think we do have the right to bear arms. I mean, if you're going to hunt, if you're going to get a gun, you have to get a license. But even still, every time it comes up, and it comes up all the time, about stricter gun control laws in our own country and that, there's a lot of hemming and hawing. And I don't know who's the lobbyists are in our government for that. Maybe it's the gun manufacturers, probably. But, that's incites violence. So in our court system, too, one of the reasons why people get away with violent crimes is because they're so backed up in the court system. There's a guy right now. In 2012, a black guy, he went in to the Eaton Centre, which is right centered downtown Toronto, huge tourist attraction.
It's a large shopping mall.
A very large shopping mall in the whole bit. Went into the food court and blasted away several people. Well, one of the people he shot, who he did not know, was an innocent bystander, got him in the head. The guy is still alive. He was a 13-year-old boy. He's alive today, but of course he's had umpteen million medical procedures done on him and the whole bit, not to mention the trauma of all of that. And they're trying to get this guy off these charges, or to a lesser charge, because he was suffering from, his lawyers are saying, from post-traumatic stress syndrome. Post-traumatic stress syndrome. Because he was involved with the gang who were out to get him, or something. That's not an excuse.
Or somebody attempted to kill him.
Yeah.
And so he was suffering from stress.
So he went in with a gun into a shopping center, into the food court, amongst thousands, hundreds of people that he didn't know, and start shooting, kind of a thing. I think he did shoot
Well,
at.
not only that, he's also trying to claim that wasn't being treated very well in the prison system.
Oh yeah, and they're trying to get a lesser sentence. He's up for sentencing now. The court case is over, but now they're fighting over how long he should be put away, and they're trying to say that he should have a lesser time because he's already been in prison during the trial and everything like this, and this has caused a lot of mental anguish for him. What about the people, the families of the victims that he shot? Yeah, really? No sympathy. None there whatsoever. But you know what will happen is, because our court systems are so backed up, because there's all of these procedures lawyers have to go through, and the way the laws are written, this guy is probably going to get a lightened sentence. Even life in prison in our country is only 25 years. That's it. And I think you can come up for parole. I don't know if you can come up for parole before that 25 years or not.
Yeah, actually. There's other ones that I've read that even if you have a life sentence, you can come up for parole after about 15 years.
So, and this is the other thing too. We've placed too much emphasis, I think, on mental health. Yes, they're right. People who shoot other people are crazy. They do have a mental issue. I don't doubt that. But it's a little late after the fact to be putting them on a psychiatrist's couch and trying to fix them after they've gone out and killed other people, isn't it? Really. But that's what they use all the time as a defense in court. They weren't in their right mind. What is their right mind? Especially the ones who go out and blatantly, and that's gang warfare, and that's what's happening in Toronto these days. It's tit for tat. Somebody shot someone in your group of friends, the gang or whatever, you now have to have this retaliation. It's revenge. And they're doing drive-bys. They're going into crowded areas. They're pulling out a gun. Huh? Really? So that maybe takes us back to gun control.
This law in the USA should copy Singapore laws.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you're also talking a huge country like the United States with 330 million people, and comparing it to one isolated small little country like Singapore that's a city nation. And
yeah. Well, you can go to prison if you spit on the street in Singapore.
Well, actually, we've been to Singapore, and it's really nice there.
Yeah, Singapore's really nice. Highly recommended if you've never been. Go to Singapore. It is a really nice place. And part of the reason it's nice is because no time are you in Singapore do you feel unsafe. You don't have to step in somebody's gob or gum. And people there seem to be civilized. I didn't see a lot of people that were yelling at other people. If you saw anybody yelling at somebody else, you knew it was a tourist. They were not from Singapore. That's for sure. Rosie says the law in the USA should cop. Yeah, that's okay. And Julie says in the UK, children under 18 go to prison and have a proper trial for serious offenses. And rightly so. Rightly so. So
they keep talking about changing the Young Offenders Act here, but nothing seems to ever get done.
No, because you got all these bleeding hearts. And I worked in an industry, education, that's full of bleeding hearts. Okay? I mean, yes, when you work with children, you see everything. And your job as an educator is also, whether it's right or wrong, your job extends beyond just teaching them the 3 R's. You are a counselor, a mentor, a conflict resolutionist. You're everything for some of those kids. And why are you that? Because parents don't parent. And that gets me to the next thing about our children. Is our society becoming more violent? Yeah, and I blame a lot of that on bad parenting. Because some of these kids, when you question them, they really don't necessarily get what is right and what is wrong. And whose job is that to teach them? You know, it's their parents, isn't it? Really? It's not my job as a citizen to teach children what's right and wrong. I mean, we probably do that through example. But, you know, as a teacher, I was often shocked about how some of these kids thought that certain things, yeah, you should be able to do that. And they'd argue with you blue in the face and go, wait, there's some fundamental things here about good and bad. Why don't you know this? Priest says, Rosie, does that include whipping for spitting out gun? And Rosie says, yes, and it does. It does. You do not. You can eat off the floors in a Singapore subway station. Believe me, you can. It's incredible. So I blame kids. Kids are not taught conflict resolution in an effective way. And I can say that as an educator because we actually had it in the curriculum. It was actually a big point many, many years ago where we actually had whole stuff on conflict resolution. We as teachers had to take professional development courses in learn it for ourselves and then to how we would approach students with it and teach them and the whole bit. And I don't think we did a very good job. It was a government thing. You know, government says, oh yeah, they need to be taught this. Conflict resolution should be taught at home by the parents. But then again, if the parents are always arguing with the neighbors or threatening to sue them or, you know, they're going to beat the snot out of them if they step a foot on their property and or their dog craps on their lawn, don't know if they're really the right people to teach conflict resolution then. But that's well, something else.
In Singapore, they don't sell gum, so. And I think they'll also nail you if you actually spit too.
Oh, they will.
Like pork out.
Which I have nothing against that at all. I think that's a really good policy with that. But that's not violence. I mean, we're back to violence here.
Yeah.
So I think the thing too, where a lot of our kids are exposed more to violence in the media, and after a while, I think you do get hard to it. You see, oh, there's another shooting in the streets of Toronto, and they show the aftermath of those shootings, straight to the point where they're showing people being taken off on gurneys to the hospital, or this kind of stuff. So after a while, and these kids have never known a world without television, without media. Well, neither do we, for that matter. But it used to be, when I was a kid and the news came on TV, anything that was violent, involved death, that kind of thing, they talked about it, they didn't show you pictures of it. Now, they show it. They show you bodies. Like when we see the international news, when they see the next car bombing in Iraq or someplace like that, you see the bodies laying there. And there's got to be a certain amount of surrealism to that. You know, it's a TV screen. You see that in movies. So, you know, movie news, what's true, what's not true. Well, we know movies are supposedly fictitious. So the news must be sort of fictitious if we want to travel that way in our mind. So therefore, violence isn't anything to worry about. It's okay. It's a way of life. Everybody's violent. Andy says, I was on a commuter train. They were talking way too loud. Their mothers were talking too loud and yelled at the kids after talking too loud. Go figure. Yeah. And Tracy says, Stephen, I think parents do parent, but a lot of issues are what kids see in the media. Reality is wreaked havoc on kids. Yeah, I agree with that. It does. Now, what was it? Trump's trying to blame it on violent video games for the mass shootings. That has been a topic that's been overworked for the last 40 years. Yes, violent. The video games are very violent, and kids, you know, are being affected by that. And, you know, I kind of think it is true. I think it adds to it. I mean, all those violent games are meant for shoot 'em up, right? When we were kids, of course,
we watched Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner.
And, you know, they dropped a 2,000-pound anvil on top of the coyote, and he got up and ran away. You know, he had dynamite stuck up his fluffy little tail and blown smithereens, and he was fine. Daffy Duck would get blown up and his beak would will around his
And
head.
apparently a lot of those cartoons have been banned now because they're too violent.
And yet, Grand Theft Auto and all the shoot 'em up games and Fortnite and all those ones, they're not banned. Oh yes, they have ratings on them.
And I guess they have to be played within the privacy of your own home or whatever.
Yeah. But like, we played violent games as kids too. I mean, we played cops and robbers, and we played, cowboys and Indians, and we ran around the streets with our little plastic guns and pistols and shot each other with them and the whole bit. But that didn't make me a mass murderer or want to go out and kill anybody. And I'm not saying that actually we should encourage those kind of games either anymore with it. But, monkey see, monkey do. Right? It's a desensitization, I think, to violence. If you see it on TV, if you see it in the news, if you see it in movies, if you see it on television shows. I mean, think of the number of television shows that are #1 rated that aren't comedies. And I think you'll find that most of them involve a fair level of violence in them. The ones about war, the ones about, cops going after the bad guys and, drug cartels and all that kind of stuff. So I suppose young people can get very desensitized to it. And if there's nobody there to guide them, like their parents, I'll bring it back to the parents, because who is responsible for bringing up children? Parents. They're parents. You had them. You look after them. And there's a lot of people that don't do much of a job on parenting in this day and age because they're too busy. They have to both work because they have to have the big house and they have to have 2 cars and they got to do this and they got to do that and the whole bit. And basically, why did you have children? I can tell you why. It's that second bottle of wine. So as people saying. Andy says, I watched Westerns when I was a kid and I've not shot anyone. Yeah, that's true. But you want to know something? We kind of knew. With Westerns, we knew that was fake. And I don't know. Maybe that's not the way to go. Maybe it has nothing to do with media. I mean, they've done studies with violent games, and they say there's no correlation between the amount of time a kid plays one of those shoot 'em up games and, actually reality of violence in our society. So what does that bring us down to then? Where else? Well, how about our heroes? Let's list our heroes, shall we? Barring celebrities. No, not barring celebrities. Who is it that we glorify the most? Okay, here's something right now. Ooh, this one will be controversial. And I'm sorry for anybody who has connections with the military. Okay? Because we glorify war. We absolutely glorify war. Our heroes come from the military society. They're defending our country. They're defending our rights. They're keeping us free. Meanwhile, they're out there shooting and killing people. Left and right. Okay? But we honor them. I don't know. I know that that's probably an oversimplification. And we could get into a whole discussion about the importance of the military and that kind of thing. Something that I don't believe in. And people say, well, yeah, if you don't believe in it, then, look what would happen in the Second World War. It could have been the Nazis could have taken us over and then think of our life. Yes, that's true. That's true. But as long as we have war in the world, we're going to have violence in the world then.
Presley, what are you referring to as incel? Because I'm looking up an incel. I knew what it sort of was, but I wanted to double check.
Yeah, we talked about this once, and I can't remember.
Incel is involuntary celibate. Like, somebody
that's
can't get a
incel?
girlfriend.
Well, that can't be what she's talking about. Tracy, fill us in on what you mean by incels. Because
involuntary celibates are members of an online subculture who define themselves as unable to find romantic contact.
Okay. Well, maybe that makes you violent. If you don't have any sex, you're probably violent. I don't know. So else I was going to say. So, the whole thing about the army. And let's think what else. We honor police, the law enforcement. agency, you know. And all those people are armed. And we're glorifying what they do. Yes, we have a need for both of those agencies. We have a need for law enforcement of and I mean, I admire people that go into the army and go into the police because I'd like to think they're doing it for the right reasons.
Men and boys who can't get laid are angry at the world.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's entirely true that they can't get laid, that they'll go out and want to kill everybody.
Somebody. I don't know about that. Well, if you get frustrated enough, I suppose. I have no idea about that. But what I'm saying about it is about our heroes in our world.
What about the women that can't get laid?
Yeah, what do they do? I think, though, too, like, our heroes. Think about all our heroes. We worship violent behavior as heroic, okay? Because somebody went into some backwoods terrorist community and blew them all away for the freedom of the rest of the free world, they're heroes. Because the cops went in and they got that murderer, and 9 times out of 10, it seems anymore on the news, when they go in after some guy who's killed somebody, they don't seem to come out alive. At least the one that they don't bring them in alive because they flinched. So they were probably going for their guns. So 14 cops blew this one person away. We have a good example of that in our own country, in Toronto, a few years ago. You may have heard of the case of Sammy Ateem or whatever. Young man, 19 years old, had mental issues, was on public transportation. He supposedly was armed. He was armed not with a gun. He had a knife, a small knife. He let everybody off of the streetcar and the whole bit. Had a standoff with the cops, sort of a thing. The cops blew him away. They didn't blow him away once. One cop shot him 9 times. I think after the first bullet's gone through your head, you're pretty much dead then. What are the other 8 for?
Well,
Target practice?
So, Presley's told me to Google incels and mass shootings, and they're saying that that a lot of mass shootings are because men hate women.
Well, whose fault's that?
But
I blame it on the women. Okay, I'm being facetious. All right.
But there's also I guess maybe it's hatred towards a group of people.
Okay.
Right, like Muslims or.
Well, okay. Where does hate come from? Hate comes out of fear of the unknown. We've known this. The psychologists have told this for years. As an educator, we were taught this as well, to look beyond that, to find the root cause. So you have people from another culture who follow different ways of doing things that you may not have ever been brought up around, and because you fear them, you lash out at them. Most people, or people who do the lashing out, you're going to live.
Go ahead.
Here, let me hit you around. A little violence. That'll get out of your system.
Look at me. Scare me.
Yeah, right. Funny. Now I forgot my train of thought because you're choking on a grape. You going to live?
Yeah, I will.
We pause this program while Walter hacks up a lung. Okay. Okay now?
Yeah.
You sure? Mm-hmm. Okay, fine. All right. So I was saying about other, if we fear that which we don't know. And then it becomes really easy. And it's become really easy in the last few years. And yes, I'm going to bring up the name of the devil, Trump. He has contributed to this thing. And it has affected us in Canada. It not as much as in the States, but it still affects us here in this country because, after all, our two countries are, pretty much stuck together out of it all. And it's really easy when things aren't going so well in your life to blame it on some other element. And so, who's the natural element to blame it on? Blame it on foreigners.
And then people that get fired from their job for no particular reason, and they get incest at their incest.
Incest.
In
game for the whole family.
What is it? They get mad at their bosses and everything else, and they run in and shoot up their workplace and stuff like that.
Yeah, again, mental health issues. Somebody has snapped. But I still don't think that's an excuse for letting them get off because you had a bad day, so you went and killed a few people. Oh, you nasty person, move on. No. But I think it's very easy to lash out to that what we don't know. Like Muslims, like Mexicans, like Americans. I don't know, whatever. It's easy to do that when you don't feel confident in yourself or you have this fear. And I think that lends itself to violence. I mean, basically, it's sort of a catalyst. Is that the right word, a catalyst? Because you're frustrated with the situation you're in, you lash out at somebody who's probably perfectly innocent, has nothing to do with you. And we see that all the time in the news, right? That's called racism and discrimination and the whole bit. I think our society has made us less tolerant because in this day and age of electronics, and we did have the discussion about how technology has affected our lives there a few weeks ago, I think everything doesn't have a face on it. Like, okay, duct cleaners call you up all the time and you can't stop it. And it's annoying and it makes you angry and you'd like to throttle them. Okay, that's just me acting out what I would like to do. But that's violent tendencies with it. But I can't get at them. So like our cat used to do, it was called redirected aggression. If you can't kill the one you want to kill the next nearest thing.
Then you've also got all these groups like the incels or whatever that have their own little group online that congregate people from all different areas in one little area.
And that's a mass mentality.
And then they all start talking to each other and saying nasty things about how they would like to do nasty things to people.
And that's the other thing I had in my notes. Social media. I think social media has contributed to the violence in our society. And just like what Walter's saying, you find other people like-minded as yourself. If you've got a hate on for a certain group in our society, then you reach out through social media, through what you say or what you join, and you find other people of like mind. Suddenly, it's a hive mentality. Everybody's thoughts and actions are being reinforced by everybody else that are in that same little group. And that's when I think things can get really scary about it. Like everybody knows, psychologists have talked about it for years, mass hysteria. How when people act alone, they're usually not as much of a threat as when people act together. And, sometimes people need to come together for the better of society, protests to change unfair laws or certain things like that. But when they come together, like the Ku Klux Klan, who's been around for, several hundred years now, and the whole bit, when they all come together, that's not really a positive thing. So that contributes to violence as well. If you can't ever get ahead, you feel that everything you have tried gets you nowhere, that you're downtrodden, I think you're going to resort at some point, if you're encouraged by other people of like minds, to do violence as well. And our societies are becoming very badly split between those that have and those that have not. There's no middle ground, it seems, much anymore. The so-called middle classes are dying out. You're either with the guys who control, or you're the ones these people are controlling. Where's the help there? Where's the hope there? So, I don't know. I think what about men who do violence to women? What's that all about? I mean, I can joke about that, and it's really not politically correct to do so, because that would cause me to be a misogynistic asshole, basically. But how about the Me Too movement? Okay? Let's talk about the Me Too movement in terms of violence. Okay? Suddenly, all these celebrities come out of the woodwork and talk about years of being sexually assaulted and abused by, Hollywood producers, directors, and that. But they allowed it to happen. Their excuse was they couldn't get a good job if they didn't go along with it. That's why they were doing that. Okay, that says something about yourself, about your integrity, and your moral standards and things like that. Yes, I'm not a woman, so I have no idea what that would be like. But then again, I don't surround myself with women who can be used either. So,
Of course, you don't have enough power.
no, I don't have enough power, so they're not going to go over me. But I mean, suddenly you're not hearing anything about the Me Too movement anymore. Isn't that funny? Is that because men have decided, oh God, I don't want to be in this, I don't want to be left alone in a job interview with that woman. I need another woman in the room for that. And I am sure some men are turning around and saying, let's not even bother hiring a woman because this could bring us problems later. I'm not saying that's the right attitude to have, but I could see how that could happen. And why do men lash out at women? These ones who do harm them. That, rape, sexually assault, beat up, abuse. Because something in their life is doing the same to them, maybe on a psychological level, so they're taking it out on what they consider a weaker link in the whole thing.
However, there isn't there always a case, too, where they say that people that have been abused end up abusing later on in life?
Yes. Yeah, they say, whoever
Well,
they are.
Yeah.
So the whole problem is we're trying to find reasons behind violence. And maybe it's our nature as human beings. Maybe we're just naturally violent. Tracy says power.
Yeah.
And Rosie says the mean moments are hypocrites. Yeah, they are as well. But what stops... Okay, I really don't like the guys who call me to clean my ducts all the time. I really don't like people that come to my door looking for money for whatever, this or that. I really don't like being asked at the liquor store to donate $2 to $5 to another charity and this kind of stuff. It annoys me. It pisses me off. It does get me angry. But it doesn't incite me to get out a gun and blow them away. So what's the difference?
That's maybe not, that's an annoyance, but that isn't giving you enough, emotional grief for you to do that.
Okay, so let's go to the gangs. Why does one gang do a drive-through shoot at somebody and back? Because someone slighted them. They didn't respect them. And in Toronto, the ones we hear about, and I'm sorry this sounds racist, but it's a fact. 9 times out of 10, the gang shootings and the drive-by shootings are perpetuated by black individuals.
Or Vietnamese.
I'm not saying that white people don't do this too, that Caucasians don't do this too. But the news seems to always report it as being someone of color. Is that because the news is biased? They're profiling? That's what some people want to believe. I'll say it up front. And I don't want to make this sound like I have a hate on for this or that, but I'll say it up front because it happens more regularly with a certain segment of our society. I don't know why.
Well, is it because they're more involved in gangs than other people? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you've got people like, look at the Hells Angels, the motorcycle clubs. The majority of the people that belong to a motorcycle club are Caucasian.
Yeah, and they were always involved in all kinds of drugs and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if they actually had as much involvement in shooting or whatever, but...
Well, but then you get a show like, what was that one we watched that we loved? Everybody loved it. Sons of Anarchy. Now that glorified a lifestyle that is a criminal lifestyle as being something cool. And they were shooting people, burying their bodies in other people's backyards, burning them up, doing all this kind of stuff, had lots of guns, lots of drugs, all this kind of stuff. And that show was number one. It was extremely popular. So, cool lifestyle. Not my lifestyle, but I mean, maybe some people think that's the way it should be. Tracy says, yes, they are biased. In the USA, Illinois is low of the list of top gun violences. Alaska, mostly white, is or was number one. Okay, I got to read that again. In the USA, Illinois is low on the list of top gun violent states. Okay. Alaska, mostly white, is or was number one. That's interesting. So a state like Alaska, you're saying, had the most violence of all the states of the United States? Why didn't we hear about this? Oh, yeah, because it's Alaska. But how many people live in Alaska as compared to any other state in the United States? I think a lot of it has to do with demographics how
Maybe they just
population.
Get cold and they get more pissed off.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm cold. I'm going to kill you. Skin you and use your hide as my next coat. I don't know. That's really interesting. Yeah.
I guess we're only talking from the area that we know about in our own area. So,
it's just food for thought. I mean,
supposedly Alaska population in 2019 is 735,720.
Well, okay.
Which is not a lot for...
Well, that's not even half the size of Toronto.
Yeah.
Of city. And I mean, Toronto's not a big city in comparison to cities in the United States or places like London, Paris, other places in Europe. So I don't know. It's amazing things they can do with statistics, though, too. Who's giving us these statistics? Are they reliable? Are they biased? That's the whole thing. Oh, B&D's here. I was struck by the fact there are more guns in America than people. Yep. There are. But the United States has a history. The United States country was founded on violence. And they're not the only country in the world that was. But in North America, they were. Canada, not so much. Yes, we had the French and the English in the 1500s and late 1400s. We're going at each other's throats. But, eventually when the English did win out over the French, the only reason they did win out over the French was the English couldn't control what was then considered Canada because there weren't enough English here, and the French had already established their colonies. So the English basically said, all right, look, we don't want to get into much of a big war with you. We've already had the Plains of Abraham. We've already done that in 17, whatever it was, and everything. But really, you guys keep your religion, keep your way of life, and keep your language, and let's just, get along, but we'll rule. Okay? And that sort of worked out. In the States, no, it was, we are fighting for independence, and we're blowing the English out of the water. And they did blow the English out of the water with it. So the whole of the United States was founded upon lack of gun control and violence. And when they created the Constitution of the United States and when they put in the amendments, one of the amendments they put in, and this has been the kicker, the Second Amendment, which says they have the right to bear arms. Now, when that Constitution was written, it was a different time period. Yeah, you needed a gun for a lot of things. I mean, you still had a vast wilderness that, you were going into, and the indigenous people were there, and, you had to defend yourself, or you used it to conquer them, whatever. So yeah, but like I said, bring it forward to the 21st century. You don't need guns. But Americans will argue that you need guns because it's our right to have one and we need to defend ourselves. Defend yourself against who? Other Americans who feel they need to defend themselves. So different mentality, and I think it stems from the historical point of view as to how the Americans, how their country was created in the first place. Our history in Canada is a little bit different. Okay, not so much on, like, if you study American, and I did, if you study American history and Canadian history, I'll tell you which one's more interesting. American history. It's far more entertaining than Canadian history. Canadian history, you're studying law. Well, this act was enacted in 1804, and then they decided they should do this in 1813, and this kind of stuff. In the States, it was, well, we've got to go out, and we've got a wild country here, and we've got to conquer it, and so we've got Lewis and Clark going up and down rivers, mapping the place, and coming in contact with the Indians, and then we have Colonel Mustard. No, that's a game. What's his name? Custard. That's it. I knew it was a pudding. Something in there. And he did this, and The Last Stand, and Last of the Mohicans, and I don't know, everything like that. It's so much more interesting than Canadian history. But it's a very violent history as well, the American version of it. So I don't know. Back in the Second Amendment writing, muskets took 10 minutes to load one bullet. I've taken the tour at Valley Forge Park and saw them load the musket and perform a shooting demo. Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of people with that by the time,
Yeah, and now you have semi-automatic guns and automatic guns. And
I think that's one of the problems. There's too many of those guns that, really, do you need an Uzi? You're living downtown New York. Do you need an Uzi? Does a hunter need an Uzi? No. No, those are guns of mass destruction. Those are things that were invented wrongly, but invented for war purposes. Not for using it in civilian settings. I don't know. Rosie, you can outrun a man with a knife, not a man with a gun. That's right. They always say, never come to a gunfight with a knife. Yeah. But I mean, this is the whole thing. And I don't know. I'm glad I'm not teaching anymore, because I know in the States, many of their high schools and that have metal detectors. And they have metal detectors to detect concealed weapons that kids may be bringing to school. In our schools, we haven't resorted to that yet. But there's nothing saying that if a kid wanted to get a gun, I would hope it would be much more difficult in our own country, but it could still be done. Coming into a school and blowing anybody away. I mean, have we ever had... Yeah, we had a school shooting back about... When was it? In Alberta? Back about 20 years ago? I think,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Well,
But nothing on the scale of what we've heard about in this last little while.
Well, there was that shooting in McGill University with.
Oh, yeah, the one where the guy went in and blew away all the women.
Yeah, well, that was a hatred for women.
That was well, not acceptable, no matter what it was. But Rosie says I carry my Smith & Wesson. Is me or him down? Kids can now buy bulletproof backpacks. Well, Rosie, you must have a huge... I can't say that word, but I know it's part of the brain. Amygdala, whatever. Rosie says, I refuse to be a victim. Oh, whoa, Rosie. That's the mentality that I think contributes to a violent society. Because what you're saying, Rosie, is, and no offense to you, Rosie, okay? I get it. But in my way of thinking, when you start thinking like that, I'm not going to be a victim, then what's the opposite? Then I'm going to be the aggressor? I'm going to blow you away before you blow me away? Is that what you're saying? Is that really what you're saying? Because if that's what you're saying, and if you believe that, then, and I'm sure there's lots of people that do believe that, then that's the wrong attitude as far as I'm concerned. That just contributes to the whole problem. I'm not criticizing you, Rosie, for that, okay? I'm sure you're a lovely person, and I don't think you would run around with a gun in your hand and blow people away.
I don't know if I want to meet you, though.
But yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad you live where you live, and we're not giving you our address.
Says it's for self-defense.
But why do you feel you need to defend yourself? Now, that's a societal thing. I don't feel that I need to carry a gun
I don't have a gun.
or any kind of weapon. We don't own guns. Won't own them. I do not feel. I mean, I said that we don't go to Toronto much anymore because we do feel a little. Well, I'm sure we could go to Toronto and we would be fine.
I mean, we have traveled to the United States.
Yeah, we've been through. We don't feel safe in the States. I'll be honest about that. We do not feel safe in the States, but we still don't carry a gun with us. Well, first of all,
we can't.
we can't. But I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't feel the need to defend myself.
Yeah, well then, Prezi says, Rosie, most women who own guns have them used against them in a scuffle. Yeah, what's stopping from somebody to disarming you and using your own gun against you?
Like, I don't know how big you are, Rosie, but you're up against a 6'3", 250-pound man, and you might have a gun in your hand, but you hesitate for a minute and don't blow him away. He gets a hold of you. He gets the gun. You're dead. So there goes your defense out the window. Unless you've been trained like a police officer to handle that kind of situation, I don't know. Yeah, Rosie says, don't visit me without calling first. Oh, damn right, Rosie. Not going near you, woman. B&D says, my son is in the States at present. I worry about his safety. And Priest says, conservatives are big. Okay, use the word I can't say. What is that word? I know what the word is. I just can never pronounce it. It's part of your amalagata. It's part of your brain. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. I don't want to make this whole session about violence all about the states and saying that, come out across as though saying that, oh yeah, well the United States are just all violent and the whole bit, and we need to put a big bubble around them and suck all the air out of it, then we'll be fine. Oh, well, I have an imagination. But I don't feel safe when we go to the United States.
Amygdala,
yeah.
amygdala.
I know what it is, I just can't say it. But, oh, Tracy, you're using big words on me now. Oh. In Canada, we feel pretty safe.
Even with the shootings.
Even with the shootings in Toronto. Actually, it worries me that Toronto in the last few years has gotten more and more violent. But like I said, what we see on the news, again, take it with a grain of salt, because it is like,
here they still report individual shootings. Yeah. I would imagine in a lot of the U.S. cities that they stopped doing that.
Well, maybe. And then they get the whole worry, too, about copycat crimes. Because, there are those people with low self-esteem and want their 15 minutes of fame, even if it's going to kill them. I mean, they did say about those two kids that were crossing Canada that had shot 3 people, that they interviewed the father of one of them, and he said, yeah, he's probably going to die because it's suicide by cop. Basically, he figured there was no way that kid was going to come back out of this alive, because he's going to put himself up against those forces, and he thinks he's going out with a thing of glory. It's sort of like some religions that think, if you blow up a whole city and you're a suicide bomber, that you're going to, go to heaven with 7 Vestal virgins. Why you'd want 1 virgin, I don't know. But 7 seems a little overdone to me. Okay. Sorry if I'm sounding a little racist on that one, but...
Says the amygdala is the fear center of the brain. Conservatives have bigger ones, and they're scared of gays, Muslims, etc. Well, I think it's also ignorance. A lot of ignorance.
And that's something, too. I think a lot of violence probably comes out of ignorance about other groups in our society. I worked with students that were Muslim background. I had people in my department I worked with that were Muslim. Great people. In fact, God, they were more Canadian than I am. I was born here. So
yeah, like I worked with a few Muslims, and they're really nice people.
Yeah.
Never had an issue with my sexuality or anything like that. Nice people, good families.
But isn't
Very
that
generous.
But isn't that the same with any group? We are told on the news, in the media, we see the worst of a group. Every group has their bad side. You know, every town, every city has the bad side of town in it, right? All that's there. That's not to whitewash everybody the same way. It's like Americans. People turn around and they go, oh God, you know, in other parts of the world, Americans, they're loud, they're this, they're blah, blah, blah. We've met many Americans as individuals, as people, as ones on our site here. Wonderful people, nice people, just ordinary people. If they didn't say they were American, you would probably never know they were American. It's only the few that make it bad for the rest of us. But unfortunately, those are the ones that are making people like Rosie think she has to take a gun out to defend herself. B says, there are very many violent places in the world, extremists causing problems in lots of countries.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, but you know, we've traveled a lot too. And you get a preconceived idea of what you might be walking into, and you may not go to certain countries in the world because you have this preconceived idea. And yet, I've talked to people who've been to places that I've only thought about going, but I'm a little afraid to go. And they say, no, I had a wonderful time. And then we've been to places where other people, where people say, oh, you went there. Oh, God, I would never go there. And you say, why? Oh, because there's this and that. And I says, no, that's not the way it was at all. It was fine, no problems, nothing. This doesn't mean you shouldn't go with a little bit of caution, because you are a foreigner in a strange country, kind of a thing. And, you know, you want to keep on the beaten path. You don't want to go into the bad areas and things like that. No, you don't want to set yourself up for a fall. But, you know, it's amazing how the number of people that I have talked to that haven't done a lot of traveling and the comments they make. Like, for example, we went to China in 2010. I'll admit, when Walter suggested the idea that we go to China, that wasn't one that was big on my books of places to go. And I kind of thought, oh, do I want to go there? Because they'll all be running around the rice paddy wearing a little pointed hat, and they'll be eating strange food that, you know, like cicadas on a stick or something like this. And then the more we talked about it, the more we felt that, you know, that's probably not that bad. And at the time, my family doctor happened to be Chinese. So I asked him some questions about China, because he'd go back. He lived in Canada. He was a Canadian citizen. But, you know, he goes back to visit family and everything. And I said to him, he asked me actually, so how do you feel about going to China? And I says, well, I'm a little apprehensive. And he said, why? And I said, well, one of the things is the food. You know, I don't want to eat like strange creatures on a stick. He goes, no, he says, you like Chinese food here? And I said, yeah, but it's North American. You know, so it's not real Chinese. He says, nah, it's pretty much the same over there. Everything is deep fried. You'll get so sick of it being deep fried. And you want to know something? He was right. But when we got to China, totally blew me out of the water. Everything I'd ever knew about China, I didn't have to examine what I knew about China. Where did I get my information? From stupid TV commercials and shows that showed people working in the rice paddies, poverty, the whole bit. No, far from it. China isn't like that at all. Very Western, very clean, very nice. I'd go back to China.
People were nice.
People were nice.
People were dressed really nice.
And the food was fine. You could have any kind of food you wanted in the world was there. But I had the Chinese, and the only thing that was strange that I ate once, and actually it was delicious, but the color threw you off because they brought this big pot of some kind of soup on the table, and it was gray, and there were things floating to the top as it bubbled, and I think some of them had fins, but I'm not really sure. But we all looked at it. I'll never forget. The people that we were on tour, we're all looking in this pot going, what do you think that is? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know.
Oh, Rosie left.
Oh, Rosie's gone? Yep.
Well,
maybe I insulted Rosie. Well, sorry about that, but it happens. I don't care. I don't regret anything I said about her and her gun. Okay? No. But anyways, long story short was, China was wonderful. Do I want to live there? No, because I'm Canadian. I like my own country. But not a problem. I would not hesitate. If the opportunity came up again and we decided we wanted to go, I'd go. It's quite an experience and it's worth going. But this is what you get, right?
Of course, don't think I'd go to Hong Kong right now.
No, well, you don't want to go to Hong Kong right now. But when we went to Hong Kong, it was fantastic. Right now they're having their issues. B says, my son really liked China, enjoyed his time there. Street food in China is very good. The press, etc., are very unreliable when reporting about other countries. Yes, they are, and that's what we get. You know, I used to say this to the kids in school. Africa. I said, what do you think of when you think of Africa? Oh, well, you know, lions, tigers, and bears. Well, no bears. Like running around on the savannah. It's all like a lot of people in grass huts wearing loincloths, yipping around the whole bit. And I went, you know, they have skyscrapers in Africa? And they looked at me. What do you mean? And I said, they have cities. They have cars. They have airplanes. They have trains. They have buses. They have food stores. They have convenience stores. They have Pepsi. You know, they have all this stuff in Africa. But I said, why is it that you think that Africa is the way you just told me you thought it was? Well, that's what they show on TV. That's what they show in National Geographic. I mean, what's your first exposure to Africa as a kid? For me, it was naked natives in a National Geographic. Oh, look, they're wearing their necks stretched up to here with all these bracelets on it, and their boobs are hanging out. And that was my attitude towards Africa. Well, I know now. Well, I haven't been to Africa except for Egypt. But, I mean, I know now that, no, the world has progressed everywhere. Russia. What do you think of when you think of Russia? Some old lady running down the street with a babushka on and carrying a loaf of bread like it's a baby, going, oh, I'm so hungry, and standing in lines. No, not like that at all. No. It may have been like that at one point in time 100 years ago, you know, after the revolution and all that kind of stuff. It's not like that anymore at all. So, I mean, this is where the fear comes from. And when you fear something, then you tend to lean towards violence. Just like Rosie said, I need to defend myself. I don't know. So anyways, I think that's brought us down pretty much to our time. Anyways, the whole point of this discussion today was, you know, how do we solve violence? I don't know, all get in a big circle and sing
No,
Kumbaya.
Rosie's still there. She's listening.
Oh, Rosie's here. Hi, Rosie. I thought we lost you. I thought you got pissed off with me and you wanted to shoot me. I'm being facetious, okay? I know. I'm sure you're a lovely person, even if you carry a gun in your handbag. Scary. Scary, scary. But anyways, so, I don't know. We haven't had a whole lot of discussion about violence. I don't know what we can say about it that we don't already know. I guess what we don't know is how to solve it.
We obviously can't solve it, so...
Well, I don't think we should say, obviously we can't solve it. I think we need to put more effort into thinking about how to solve it. But I don't think standing around hugging a tree and singing Kumbaya is going to do it either. I think the way we do it is we've got to put more force on our governments to stand up against to stand up against the lobbyists that are against gun control. I think screw the money. Like they were just talking, I just saw it on a YouTube channel, what's his name? It comes on one of the late night talk shows. He was saying that some guy in the Senate, somebody famous in the States, I guess they have a bill that's stalled in the Senate that's a bipartisan bill that's supposed to increase background checks. Like that's going to make a difference. But for people getting guns in this. And I guess the Senate is stalling it, and this one particular senator is really stalling it as much as he can because apparently the NRA gives him like over $1 million every year towards his campaigns or whatever, and this kind of bit. And then there's several other senators too, maybe a lot of senators in the Republicans who get money from the NRA because that's how lobbying works in it. So, and I think we need to revamp our justice system so that truly is a justice system and not just a lot of high-paid lawyers on both sides who keep cases in the law courts on the terms that they're defending their client, that they want to do it the right way, and they're just heaping up the dollars for the whole thing, and it delays it in the courts to the point where it gets so convoluted after so many years that the person who's committed the violent crime basically gets off or gets a lighter sentence than they should get. Rosie, I knew a cop who shot his testicle off cleaning his gun. If he's not good with a gun, who is? That's funny. Rosie says, he has a personal problem. Yeah, I think he's got more than one now. Andy says, some of our politicians say it's mental illness yet. One of the bills Trump signed his first day in office gave people with mental illness the right to buy guns. So there you go. Really? Why? Why? It's just, just makes you want to go into your local government office and blow them all away with a gun, doesn't it? I'm being facetious again. B says, interesting discussion. Sadly, I missed most of it. We need to be realistic about the influence around us, and as you say, put pressure on our leaders so we might get a better world. Yep. Maybe someday it will happen. I would like to think it would be in our lifetime, but I don't think that's going to happen. Because I think the crux of the whole thing comes down to this. We're animals. We think we're high on the food chain, yes. We think we're very sophisticated and intelligent, but at heart, we're still carnivores. We are still animals. And one of the things that animals have inside of them is it's either eat or be eaten. Okay? And I think that still is in the back of our little thing that Tracy was calling the Amalagada medallion, whatever that thing is, in there too. I think that's where it all stems from. Trump was rescinding a law signed by Obama. Yeah. God, when you people get rid of him.
Soon. Yeah, well, isn't that what all political groups do? Is as soon as a new person gets in, they sort of rescind everything the previous administration has done.
And then we're back at square one again and nothing gets accomplished. Okay, so that was cheery. Let's move on and
we have to have a cheerier topic.
Yeah, we do. Well, next week, Walter suggested we talk about knowing your prices when shopping online. A consumer's affair kind of idea. We might change our mind before we get to that, but we'll see. Just some things about what we're watching. Okay, I think, did we mention it last week or not? The one called The Boys on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a dark comedy, but, it's sort of the anti-superhero thing. It's kind of refreshing.
We have Trump Mark II in the UK. Yeah, well, we have mini Trump as well. So.
We have mini Trump here in the province.
Actually, it's more like Maxi Trump because he's 3 times bigger than Trump.
Yeah, that's right. He's certainly no skinny mini. We're just finishing up.
And don't you know he's a vegetarian? But he does.
He's a vegetarian?
He's a vegetarian, but he does.
He's 400 pounds of.
But he does eat chicken, and he likes KFC.
I mean,
so he's a vegetarian, but he eats chicken. So
he basically looks like 3 bags of shit in a 2-pound bag. I mean, really?
It's called Boris.
Yeah.
No, they're calling the one in England Boris.
Boris. Oh yeah, Boris. Boris, get the moose. Boris, squirrel over there. Yes, Natasha.
Obviously, our provincial leader doesn't know what the definition of a vegetarian is.
No, but he does have the definition. You can put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. Pose. Great show. We're just finishing up the 2nd season. It's on FX. We don't have FX, but you don't want to know how we get it because I could tell you, then I'd have to kill you. Oh, brings you back to violence again. I went to the show this week. Walter didn't. I went with a friend. He was at the gym. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's what's his name?
Tarantino.
Yeah, and his stuff's always weird. Well, this one does not let you down. It is weird, and you want to talk about violence. A trademark of his movies is there's always a scene, usually near the last part of the movie, where it's just grossly violent. And this one does not disappoint when it comes to that. So there you go. What we're saying about the media and violence. I'm reading an interesting book right now called The Witch's Kind by Louisa Morgan. I got it on Kobo. It's interesting. It's basically, I don't know how to describe it, because if you like books about sort of the supernatural or a little weird, if you like aliens, if you like water witches, you'd probably like this book. It's actually quite entertaining, and I don't know if it's part of a series or not. And next weekend, next Saturday too. We can't, if we do Stephen Walter Live on Saturday, well, of course, we'll be there at the first. It's the annual open house or semi-annual open house at Ultimate Sewing, because this is where we get to pick out what classes we're going to take in the next session. And we have to line up. Okay, talking about violence. We go early so we can be in line first, because otherwise there's all these women that are fighting with us to get into the store. It's dog eat dog. So yeah, I don't want to say too much about that because I'll be in trouble about it. No, it never makes me violent. I only get violent with my words. I just tell them, we're here first. Bugger off. Whatever. Nah, I'm joking. Okay, so I think that's it. Yeah. So next week, tentative topic is consumers' affairs about shopping online. Maybe, unless we come up with something better. Or if you come up with something better, send us an email. Let us know. We're always open to other topics that you would like to talk about. And thanks for joining us. And have a good weekend. What's left of it, and a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.